Hot child in the city, dun 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 dun, running round and looking pretty. Wait a minute, I gotta get realistic, y'all. Hot old woman in the country, dun 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 dun, looking old and very grumpy, dun dun dun. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, and it's going to be a hot day here in Tennessee. The reason I know this, not just by looking at the temperature or reading the forecast, but my windows in my house are all fogged up because I keep it at a nice 72 in there, and it's already getting hot and muggy and humid out here. How's everybody doing? We made it through another week. I don't know if you keep track of your days or months or your weeks or your seconds or your minutes, but just putting it into perspective, this is another week gone by. Hello, Kathy Gregg. How are you? So I am getting ready to gear up for a wonderful weekend out on the lake again, y'all. We're going to wear it out. Wayne and I are going to wear that boat out. We're going to go fishing. We're going to get out on the lake. Uh, just enjoy the day. Good morning, Teresa. Good morning, Chris Arnett. Good morning, Ann Gibson. Ann Gibson is up a ladder painting. Be careful there, Ann Gibson. Hello, Ariel the Mermaid. Happy Friday, everyone, says Ariel the Mermaid. Good morning, Jean Fatou. Good morning, I Live For Now. How are y'all? Well, 1979 ACR says morning. That's a good thing, right? Y'all know that on Fridays I'm going to be a little more disciplined. I'm not going to let my emotions get the better of me, although that's not a bad thing. I figured this out. But I do want to try to keep some discipline on my Fridays. It's more like Friday fun, if you want to say it like that. And it really comes down to what is old KJ going to get disciplined about. And y'all know where I'm going with this. The beef Wellington pie, huh? Hello, Bonnie Baker. Hello, Mary Metal. And just to let y'all know, I've been keeping an eye on this case because one of my biggest questions is about Erin Patterson of Australia and her beef Wellington there that killed three of her in-laws, and one of them's fighting for their life, waiting on a liver transplant. The big question is she guilty? And in my view, as I look, it's more like, what is the news media saying? When was the last time that we saw anything having to do with a criminal case before it actually came about that the news media, they were reporting on it, and then it just went away? And the person ended up being not guilty, and they just didn't press charges against them. Y'all, something these news media people, they know that old KJ and others do not know, because they will not stop talking about Erin Patterson. Now, could that be that there's not a lot going on in Australia, like one of y'all have said? And they're trying to get a great big news story so they can get lots of money with clicks and likes and advertising and all that. Good morning, Kathy Mama Bear. Fancy Nancy Bergbauer says, happy Friday to you, Shiny Rays. So, what's the latest? What is the latest on the beef Wellington killer of her in-laws, huh? Erin Patterson? Well, y'all are probably going to find this amusing, because I looked online for the very last news of Erin Patterson from Daily Mail, who Daily Mail has been covering this from the get-go. But it was 9 hours ago, and this is what they want us to know about Erin Patterson, all right? A strange detail on mushroom chef Erin Patterson's hands that no one spotted before now shows 2 injuries to the middle finger on her right hand. Y'all, this is Australia's Daily Mail news there. They're talking about Erin Patterson's middle finger. And when I get done talking with y'all, Coffee with KJ, I'll post the picture. You can see the injuries of her in her middle finger, okay? 2 healing cuts are visible on the 48-year-old's hand in separate filmed interviews in the driveway of her home on Monday, August 7th, 9 days after she hosted the fatal beef Wellington lunch inside the house at Leongatha in Victoria, South Gippsland. So let's stop for a second. We remember talking about, some of y'all went and looked, I put it on the community wall. She came out there in a pretty much spontaneous interview she didn't want to be in. That was 9 days after. She's got these injuries on her middle finger. Looks like they're healing up a little bit, but they don't look like they've just been made either. In the 2 separate interviews, dressed in a dark red hoodie and chino pants, and then in a gray sweater and cream trousers, Miss Patterson waves around her hands as she wipes away tears. And in those interviews, she's like, I love them so much. I loved them. My kids loved them. I can't believe this is devastating, devastating, devastating. I love them, and I'm devastated they're gone, Miss Patterson said through tears, shielding her face with her right hand, which has the cuts or abrasions clearly visible. And let me just say this, let me throw this in here right now. If this woman's innocent, I'm going to feel like dog shit, all right? But if she is guilty, I mean, you got to ask the question, y'all. Why does the media continue to hold on to this like a dog chewing on a bone? The more serious looking injury is situated below the knuckle of her middle, the knuckle of her middle right finger. The second injury is around the region of the nail bed of the same finger. The media were camped on Miss Patterson's doorstep several days after her ex-husband Simon's parents, Don and Gail Patterson, as well as Gail's sister Heather Wilkinson, died from suspected poisoning from death cap mushrooms. During the interviews, Erin appeared to be right-handed, clutching her keys and removing her glasses with the same hand. She would therefore be more likely to injure her left hand during cooking or serving up meat cut with a knife in her right hand. So what they're insinuating here is because this woman, obviously, in their view, she's right-handed. She's got these injuries on the inside of her middle finger here. On the outside of her middle finger. That somehow, some way, this is supposed to be something that we're supposed to grab hold of. This is news, y'all. This is news, they say, or they wouldn't publish it. Beef Wellington is made with a high-quality cut of meat, often eye fillet, coated in chopped button and wild mushrooms. Daily Mail Australia does not suggest Miss Patterson was responsible for the deaths of her former in-laws or the poisoning of her husband's uncle, Pastor Ian Wilkinson, who remains in the hospital after suffering the collapse of his liver and now they're saying might need a transplant. Okay, that's something new for me. And I'm telling y'all, I just printed this off. I got up this morning, went in there, got me some coffee, started to sip, getting ready to walk out here, and I thought, well, let me stay true to what I said. I'm gonna stay disciplined. We're gonna stay on this Aaron Patterson mushroom stuff on Fridays. And now here we are, and they're saying might need a liver transplant. When all this damn time they've been telling us that he needs one. So there are subtle changes there, y'all. Make no mistake. When KJ went to college, I did media influence classes. I did communication classes. I did a thesis on media influence on the youth of America. So these are things that I'm kind of looking at because I know a tiny bit about it. Miss Patterson originally gave no comment responses to police, but then released a statement, which was not a formal police interview, in which she mentioned a food hydrator she had used to prepare the beef Wellington. In the statement, Miss Patterson said she had dumped the dehydrator at a local tip in the days after her lunch. Her lunch guest fell ill because she was in a panic. Now, y'all, why would she do that? Why not hold on? I mean, she was in a panic for what? The panic should have been, I should get this food dehydrator to the police immediately or to the hospital immediately so that they can, test it and see what's going on here, because I don't know why there was poison mushrooms in the beef Wellington. Give me a break, y'all. Miss Patterson, who is the mother of high school age 2 children with Simon Patterson, said her experience with police has been terrifying and anxiety provoking. Why would it be terrifying, y'all? You ain't done nothing wrong. You look to the police to help. You look to the hospital staff and the nurses and the doctors to help. I mean, I don't know how they treated her initially. I don't know some of the details of some of the answers that I want that they're not giving us yet. On the same day the cuts on her hand was visible, Victoria police described her as a suspect. However, investigators say they're keeping an open mind as they investigate the deaths. It is more than 2 weeks since Detective Inspector Dean Thomas said Aaron Patterson remained a suspect in the investigation because she served the meal, but added that it could be very innocent. We just don't know. So, Daily Mail of Australia wants us to know it's been 2 weeks since the last news. Her statement coming out. And I'm sure the media that's picked up on this story, they have picked that statement of Aaron Patterson's out, picked it, molded over, done everything, and now they're getting to what, y'all? They're getting to a couple of cuts on this woman's hand. What is this about? Why are they doing this? Is this to keep people on the freaking hook? What is it? Earlier this week, the family of Don and Gail Patterson held a private burial for the couple who were interred together in an as yet unmarked grave in Korumburra General Cemetery. Ian Wilkinson, 68, is still critical but in stable condition at the Austin Hospital in Melbourne's northeast. Does it say anything in this article that Aaron Patterson went to her in-laws' funeral or cemetery ceremony, whatever? No, but I mean, I'm assuming if I look, I'll probably find out whether she attended it or not. We all know Simon Patterson's going to attend his own parents' burial. Y'all, this man just lost in one fell swoop his mother and his father all at once. It's awful. Teresa says, wonder if they seized her phone. Did they do Google searches? Could be interesting. Well, Teresa, now that you've asked it, I do recall reading an article where attorneys had to go to her house to drop off a letter because she didn't have her cell phone for them to call her. It had been taken up by police. So there's your answer. So I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I get cuts on my hands, and my goodness, I've got something right here. It might be a bug bite, but it's still something. There are times that, being the old country girl that I am, I get cuts. I've got scars and stuff where I've cut myself. Obviously, anyone, and I'm sure most of y'all on here who cook, there comes a time where you accidentally cut yourself or something while you're cooking. I guess it comes down to, you can have the cuts there, and the media can look at it, but they don't know when you got them. They don't know, and they don't know how old they are. Is this their way of pointing this out to the police? Because y'all have seen it time and time again when it comes to things that happened. Whether this is a crime or not remains to be seen, but it is a major event of 3 people dying and 1 almost dying, that they take pictures, of your hands and your body and stuff to see, especially if it was like a murder, like one of them ones where you get in an actual fight with somebody or something. It's almost like I know that someone from Daily Mail was trying to figure out a story and was just sitting there staring at this woman's photograph and noticed that on her middle finger, or somebody said, hey, I looked at this picture and I wanted y'all to know she's got cuts there, and they put a story around it, basically. So for all y'all here this morning that I didn't welcome in, good morning, Daisy Shoeshine. Let's see who else. Sam Willow. A few of y'all on here that I didn't get a chance to say good morning to. Good morning, Stephanie Willow. I'm telling you, this is leading somewhere. There's no room in my mind right now to think that eventually all these news headlines of Aaron Patterson out of Australia is just going to come out. Some police officer's going to come out with a statement saying, we've cleared her of all wrongdoing, and that be it. It doesn't happen because how many times has situations in terms of people's family members dying or whatever, you don't get headline news for that. This has been blown up all over the world. Why are they doing this? Is this to remind everybody that if you're going to have wild mushrooms, that you need to be careful? Maybe this is some kind of underlying service announcement here, and it gets people's attention. Good morning, Elba Lopez. So, OKJ told all of y'all that what I was going to do was I was going to make a beef Wellington, okay? A beef Wellington pie. And I posted on the community wall that I was going to, ask all y'all for recipes and stuff, and I never really got a whole lot. Julie Coe kind of explained a little bit to me. I couldn't picture it when I was reading the print of the recipe. And many say, well, KJ, you could have went on YouTube. And y'all, I did. I went and I looked under Gordon Ramsay, y'all. I've got a little tickle in my heart over him. Just him making a beef Wellington. I'll post that little short vid on the community wall. He was doing a Christmas version of it with chestnuts, and he made it look so damn easy. Excellent chef, Gordon Ramsay is. So I finally said, I've got to do this as simple as possible, because if I go all the way and do this fancy stuff and all that, I'm going to get all mixed up. I've got to be able to see what I'm doing just to get an idea of where I'm going. So I've come up with A super easy beef Wellington recipe, y'all. That's the name of it. And I want to go over this with y'all because some of it I'm going to have to not even deal with, really. Example being the equipment that I'm going to need for my beef Wellington, y'all, is a meat thermometer and cling wrap. Now, I know I need the cling wrap, but OKJ is not, I just don't get into dang sticking a thermometer in my beef. Especially if it's going to be a pie. I don't want holes in there. I want it to look good. And by the way, Gordon Ramsay, he doesn't use a thermometer. He says the way that you prepare it with the ham and the extra stuff and everything, and then you wrap it, and then you put it in, that pastry and everything, that if you do it the right way, it will evenly cook, and I am going to rely on that. I don't need a meat thermometer. Besides that, I like my beef rare, so if it does get a little rare, then I'll be okay with it. I'll eat it anyway. So I need 3 pounds of center cut beef tenderloin, which I've already picked up the beef, y'all. I've already picked it up, so I've got my beef tenderloin. It doesn't look anything like Gordon Ramsay's there. His doesn't look like it's got any fat in it at all. Mine's got some marbling in it, y'all. I want my beef to be juicy and good. And when I talk about this recipe, y'all, and I'm going to shoot a video, cooking video on it, so that I can delve into this possibility that Aaron Patterson was very meticulous over preparing this beef Wellington. I'm definitely going to, I'm going to need my beef nice and juicy. That's the way, I can't go with this lean stuff, right? All right, so you get that. Then you got 6 cups of white mushrooms. All right, now, Erin Patterson said she bought some button cap mushrooms at a grocery store, and she bought some dried up mushrooms from an Asian market, which she can't remember where. And I was wondering about that. I'm like, okay, she's getting fresh mushrooms. She's also getting dried mushrooms. And if she's getting the fresh ones, which ones are going into the food dehydrator? Y'all, if she's getting dry Asian mushrooms, why need a food dehydrator? And then I'm like, okay, why do they even dry them at all? Well, Gordon Ramsay was showing on YouTube his recipe for beef Wellington. He says when you put the fresh mushrooms in, you've got to get all the water out of them. He says nothing about you got to put them in a food dehydrator. So that is one of the steps Gordon Ramsay says, that those mushrooms have a lot of water in them. So you can do that for your beef Wellington. And then you've got Erin Patterson using dehydrated mushrooms so that she gets to skip that. If her mushrooms are already dried out, then you don't have that extra time in the skillet. All right, so then you have 2 pie crust doughs. And Gordon Ramsay uses puff pastries, which I'm going to try to find those. But if not, I know I can fall back on 2 pie crust doughs. A tablespoon of fresh rosemary. I've got that in the cabinet. A tablespoon of, not in the cabinet. I've got some dried for rosemary, so I'm going to need some fresh rosemary. 1 tablespoon of fresh thyme. I'm going to have to get some fresh thyme on that. A clove of fresh garlic. I'm going to need that. 1 egg yolk. I've got that. Salt and pepper to taste. I've got that, y'all. That is a short recipe list. So, what do y'all think? Y'all think I can do this recipe since I picked one that's kind of easy, and then I've got the kind of visual view from Gordon Ramsay's beef Wellington video there. I could kind of do a little bit through the both. I do know, according to my ingredients, that it only says 6 cups of white mushrooms. Erin Patterson used 2 types of mushrooms, so that's where it veers off for me. I don't think I've ever looked in a store. Do they have dehydrated mushrooms in stores, y'all? I know that sounds like a crazy question, but it is there. You go to the grocery store and you can find dehydrated mushrooms. Anybody know? Make it with the bad mushrooms and send special delivery to Chad and Lori, says Wish Dream. I'm sure Lori and Chad would eat the hell out of KJ's Beef Wellington because it's better than them freaking sack lunches. Kathy Mama Bear says, yes, you can get dehydrated mushrooms. Tina Reddington says, KJ, those canned croissant rolls makes a great crust. Unroll them, but don't take them apart. Oh my gosh, Tina. I've got to do that. I got to write that down. Hold on. This is going to be the best Ray Beef Wellington, y'all. The croissant. I know what you're talking about. Croissant rolls. You know how they have like the little edging, like the little triangles, and you take them apart and you roll them. You can make pigs in the blanket or just croissants. But Tina's saying just roll it out like a flat pastry. Very good. Thank you, Tina. 6 cups of mushrooms. Oh my God, that is way too much for my liking. Sounds like a mushroom pie, not a beef Wellington with mushroom. Okay. But I remember, though, Isabella Marie, where Gordon Ramsay said, and even in this recipe, there's a part that says, right here it says, this is where you realize why you needed so many mushrooms. They shrink and shrivel like nobody's business. Sprinkle with salt and pepper and place in a bowl. Set aside to cool. So there's one thing in here on this recipe that says once you take all those mushrooms, they're going to shrink. It's a lot like, you get a big old pack of bacon. And you're like, oh, it's a nice pack of bacon. You get in there and you put some in the skillet and the bacon shrivels up to nothing. It's the same with mushrooms, y'all. Yes, Mel Mac says it. Mushrooms, they shrink, y'all. Only in specialty stores like an Asian store. I'm guessing there are no dried mushrooms at Woolworths, Kohl's, IGA. Everything is fresh mushrooms, says Isabella. Isabella, my mother used to shop at the IGA. It was a family owned it years and years ago. I mean, she knew where everything was. Now it's got these great big box stores and you just aggravating as hell. Janelle Murphy says dried mushrooms are already shrunk and shriveled. Okay. Well, this recipe calls for 6 cups of white mushrooms. It doesn't say dried mushrooms and it doesn't say fresh mushrooms, but I'm assuming it's fresh mushrooms because they do have something in here that says that they shrivel and shrink like nobody's business. Okay, so we're going to go over this. And I'm going to post Gordon Ramsay's video on the community wall. Y'all, this isn't about cooking. This is about let's try to see, because now we got news that old Erin Patterson there, she's hurt her fingers and everything, and we won't know why or how she did it. But let's look at the recipe and the actions that you have to take to make the beef Wellington. Number 1, start by heating up a large cast iron skillet or pan on high with a nice drizzle of olive oil or butter, along with a sprig of fresh rosemary or thyme. Because in this moment, flavor is everything. So I'm going to go with butter. Y'all, I'm going with butter. Whenever I make steaks on the stove, and I know I'm not completely cooking this tenderloin, I know I'm just searing it, but when I make steaks, I love to use butter. I don't like to use even olive oil or vegetable oil or canola oil or anything like that. It just doesn't have the taste I want. And butter, salted butter. That's for me. That's old Southern girl. So it says you're going to be searing the beef on all sides for no more than 2 minutes in total. So flip every 30 seconds or so. It helps create a lock in that extra flavor in the beef. Be sure to sear both ends, but know that you are not actually trying to cook the tenderloin. And I believe that's what Julie Cole had said to me. I'm pretty sure it was Julie Cole though. So the next step is once I've seared that, y'all, that 3-pound tenderloin, and remove the beef and allow it to rest, y'all. I have to allow the beef to rest. Maybe I should go get it a little blankie. Maybe I should sing a little lullaby. It's got to rest, y'all. Ha ha ha. Joke, very funny. So I'm going to let it rest and remove the pan from the heat. So I'm removing the pan from the heat. The butter that's been in there to sear the beef is still in there. I'm sure a little thyme or rosemary is still in there. So you're putting that off to the side. Finally, dice and mince your garlic, rosemary, and thyme, and add to your processor along with the sliced mushrooms. Processing is much easier. Otherwise, you will have to do this by hand, y'all. And OKJ does not have a food processor. Oh, I know. I go out here and buy one cheaply enough at Walmart or somewhere, but I don't own one. I've got a blender, and maybe I could use the chopping on the blender, because I make my shakes in my blender. It's one of them big glass blenders. So maybe I could use that instead, or what, y'all? I got to do it by hand. Did Aaron Patterson do it by hand? So I picture that. It's all got to be chopped up in there. You want the mushrooms to be ground finely without emulsifying it entirely. So like the consistency of ground beef. Keep doing the food processor until you have the right texture. It's okay if you happen to still have small chunks of mushroom. So if I was to put all of that into my blender, I'd have to be sure not to make it all turn into a liquid. It's got to be kind of chunky like ground beef. So after I've done that, I transfer to the skillet that was already, it had the butter and stuff in there. It's probably got some of the juices of the beef tenderloin still in there too. You transfer to the same skillet you use for the beef and bring the heat to medium. Mushrooms contain a lot of water, so essentially you want to cook that out. About 7 to 8 minutes will do. This is where you realize why you needed so many mushrooms, and y'all, I've brought this up. They shrivel and shrink up. You sprinkle with salt and pepper, and you place in the bowl, set aside to cool. So I got a bowl of this mushroom and stuff in here. That's set aside. My beef tenderloin has been resting. Then then it gets to the part where I had to go to Gordon Ramsay because I couldn't picture it in my head because I've never made a beef Wellington before. I don't use a lot of cling wrap. I use like Reynolds wrap, but in this case I have to use cling wrap. Have your cling wrap and a large flat surface ready. So you roll it out, y'all, and I'm gonna do a visual. I'm gonna do my video. I might mess up on it, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Eyeball measure the length of your tenderloin. You want at least 3/4 inches of extra cling wrap on the sides all the way around. Once you roll your cling wrap out, so you may have to double it up the way I did. You want enough in length to roll and wrap your beef Wellington. And you'll be doing this process twice over, so be sure you have enough cling wrap to go around. At this point, you're going to be laying out your cured ham or prosciutto, and y'all, I can't say that word right, but I know what it is. It's those thin ham things. I'm going to get those. I'm not getting cured ham. I'm going to get prosciutto. Y'all know what that is, over the cling wrap. So you lay that out on top of the cling wrap. For this, you will lay 2 columns of 6 slices, more or less depending on the size of your tenderloin, slightly overlapping the sides and the ends that meet in the middle. You will basically be encasing the beef into this delicious blanket, so be very careful when laying and not to break the delicate slices. That's why I said to have why I say to have extra slices, 12 or so, in case you need to fill any gaps or broken pieces. So there you have it, and y'all. I know some of y'all know what beef Wellington and how to do that. I'm gonna post a video from Gordon Ramsay, but y'all, I'm gonna do my own video. The bottom line is this is all new to me, and I'm gonna do it. So you go back to the mushrooms that are in the bowl, y'all. Which, if you notice, actually looks less appetizing now more than ever. It's okay. You'll forget they're there. Spread them over the ham layers. I'm going to say ham layers because I can't say the other one. Into a thin, even layer. There's no science to this. Just leave a little room at the edges so there is no spillage. Now place the tenderloin at the center. You want the beef to lay vertically if you've layered your ham horizontally. The rolling process is rather easy. Just be sure to keep everything tight. The cling wrap is your friend, y'all, and is there to guide you and help keep the layers of everything intact. Be careful when peeling the cling wrap from the ham because it will stick. And then, y'all, it says, if you notice an awful stench coming from the tenderloin, which I've smelt every single time I've made Wellington, I think it's the reaction between the mushroom and the ham slices. It's nothing to worry about. Trust me, it will be great. How many times has OKJ smelled something and thought, there ain't no damn way, I smelled it, it don't smell good, I ain't eating it? And I'm not talking about smelling it to see if it's fresh or not. I mean, some kind of dish out here. If it don't smell good to me, I'm going to have a hard time eating it, y'all. That's just the way it is. Tina Reddington says, but KJ, a Wellington pie is not a beef Wellington. I understand that, Tina. I'm going by a recipe here that was supposed to be about, it's a super easy beef Wellington recipe. So maybe you've proven your point, Tina. What's the use of me doing a beef Wellington like the traditional kind if she made a beef Wellington pie? And by the way, y'all, some news articles say beef Wellington pie, some of them say beef Wellington. What am I supposed to do? You know, go back to the drawing table and look for a beef Wellington pie? Yes, I posted a picture of some Google image where it was an actual beef Wellington pie, y'all. But what if she made a beef Wellington? What if she made a beef Wellington pie? What am I supposed to do about that? Tina says a Wellington pie is made with cube beef, not the whole tenderloin. Sam Willis says, oh, the difference is the beef is cut up for the pie. Jet Jay says, I think the difference is if it has a bottom crust or not. Well, either way it goes, y'all, even the beef Wellington pie and that would seem like it'd be easier, wouldn't it, y'all? You'd chop up this 3-pound stuff in here I got and sear them, put them in a pie crust, add the pie crust thing on top of it. Would be a hell of a lot easier than what they're trying to get me to do here. Well, the whole thing, though, Mama Bear, is I'm trying to see how perhaps Erin Patterson dealt with this whole recipe, even though I don't know what it is. Did she take the time to dry out mushrooms that she says were already dried out from an Asian market? Was she just using the white button caps and drying them out in a food dehydrator? Yes, Samuela and Tina says the pie does sound easier. So anyway, I'm going to keep on. I'm going to continue doing this, y'all, because I'm trying to get it in my mind how I'm going to do it. And who knows, y'all? I mean, KJ has never made beef Wellington pie, beef Wellington, or anything. So however it turns out, it really comes down to the focus of mushrooms, right? Did she use death cap mushrooms? And if she did, for this expert forager that's been reported from her family members and everyone, did she look at them as she was chopping them up? Or did she look at them when she took them out of the package? Did she look at them before when she was laying them in the food dehydrator? Was she looking at them and saying, those look harmless? She was an expert forager, y'all. And we don't know. She says an Asian market and a grocery store. For all we know, she picked every damn one of them mushrooms under an oak tree. Well, I'm going through this process of this recipe, y'all, because I am going to make this interesting for myself and anyone else who finds it interesting. So here's where I part ways with beef Wellington or beef Wellington pie, because Tina and Sam Willow and others have pointed out that the pie is easier to make. The rolling process is rather easy, but just be sure to keep everything tight. Having a consistent shape of the tenderloin at this point, because this will promote even cooking. Use the extra cling wrap on the sides to twist and tighten the mold. Once this is done, place in the fridge for about 15 minutes. Toss the cling wrap and used and repeat that process again for the second rolling. Y'all, do I want to make a beef Wellington traditional? Would Erin Patterson, would she have made the tradition for these in-laws? Or would she have tried to make it easier on herself to make beef Wellington pie, which would have been an easier thing to do? And let's just be clear, y'all. It's in the news. The way that she made in her statement, she talked about she sliced of it off and gave each onto a plate, and everyone picked their own. Did she garnish it with the death cap mushrooms? And she picks up the last plate, and what? She ain't gonna put mushrooms on hers? It had to have been a garnish, y'all. Because she goes on to say the next night her kids eat leftovers and they scrape those off. CSI Crowdsource Illumination says the pie sounds much easier. Madam August Butterfly says, I made it, KJ. Are you serious? Madam August Butterfly, are you used to making it so it's no big deal? Or was this the first time you made it? Kathy says, slice sounds like traditional. So I'm going to go with it, y'all. Oh, wait. Let's clear this up now. I'll put one in the comments if you want the traditional beef Wellington, or two, do you want the beef Wellington pie? Put it in the comments. I'm going to add them up. So are we going to have one traditional beef Wellington or two beef Wellington pie? Y'all let me know, because I'm going to go with whoever says the most. Rita says 2, 1, 2. One, two, two. 1, 2, 2. There's a lot of these pies coming out. Tom Bond says beef Wellington pie. So as y'all can see in the live stream here, there's more 2s than 1s, but I'm waiting. Tina Reddington says, hey, it could be that the beef Wellington pie was just a slice of pie. Good point there. Good point, Kathy Mama Bear, on it sounds traditional. We got some 1s and we've got 2s, y'all. Tina wants to see a beef Wellington pie. It can't be too hard, y'all. Take that big tenderloin and chop it into pieces and sear them very quickly in the skillet like that, and do it like that, and all I have to do is put it in the... but then again, Tina brings up a great thing, those croissant things. I would say those would taste better than puff pastries or pie crust. I mean, I could use a pie crust, y'all, and then put the croissant, lay them flat on there, maybe put the little decorations in the center, and then brush it with the egg yolk. Doesn't that sound like a plan, y'all? I think I've got it figured out from old KJ's head. Hey, Donna Donald. Hey, Ramona Fisley. Hey, Susan Honecker. Melmac says, make the real deal traditional. I guess it comes down to this, y'all. Erin Patterson knew she was making a lunch for her 4 in-laws. I remember running into, I kid y'all not, y'all, I was at the grocery store getting the tenderloin, and this woman was walking by, and she said, sounds like you're making a meal for older folk. Was she making the traditional for those 4 in-laws with the hopes that Simon would come back? Or did she make the pie version? Which would have what, y'all? Would it have made it easier for her to put the poison mushrooms in there? More so? Because if she would have done the traditional, y'all, unless she garnished. Do you garnish a pie? You know you garnish with a beef Wellington, the traditional one. Judy Burgess says, considered how much money a tenderloin costs, it would be a shame to cube it all up in a pie. No, Tina, that wasn't sirens. That was a fella that lives down the way driving by. Oh, Tina's talking about sirens at her place. I thought you were talking about that noise of the honking. Madam August Butterfly says powdered mushrooms, y'all. Well, how about this? Let's use a little common sense. Whichever one, whether it's the pie or the traditional beef Wellington, both of them have the mixture of mushrooms in with the spices. And her kids scraped off the mushrooms to eat them, she says. Would it be? I mean, what are we talking about here? Because when we're talking about a garnish, we're talking about in the moment. We're not talking about it's all on there and they scraped it off. It wouldn't be a pie, would it? New Hampshire, I guess that's New Hampshire. NH Mary says, I think you do your recipe and call it a KJ pie. Eric Jasper, I use the cheap biscuits. You know the biscuits that you can buy in those little rolls there. They're old cheap biscuits. If you go to bake them, they don't taste good at all. They've got no flavor. I take that and I pinch two. I take one and I pinch and make 2 dumplings. I've tried rolling them out. I've tried homemade dumplings. I've tried biscuit. I've tried them all. And the cheap ass biscuits are what goes well in my chicken and dumplings. And Gibson says, so if the kids scraped them off to eat it and they didn't get sick, then it's traditional. It's traditional. So I guess y'all, even though a lot of y'all want to see OKJ make a pie, I guess I'm gonna do this traditional. There's other things that some of y'all have said, makes great points. I would say that a beef Wellington pie would be like, oh, I love beef Wellington, but I've only got so much beef, so I'm going to cube it off and make it because I enjoy the taste of beef Wellington, which is an easier recipe. I'm going to have to go full blown on this. I'm going to make the beef Wellington traditional, y'all. I've made up my mind. I've made it up. I've never had a tenderloin beef wrapped in this stuff in a pastry. They say if you do it right, it makes the beef taste awesome. So I'm going to try it out because ultimately I'm going to eat it. And Wayne's going to eat it. I know it's not going to have death cap mushrooms in it. So the decision's made, y'all. Susan Honecker says the garnish on a meat pie could be on top like whipped cream on a dessert pie. All right, y'all are getting me all moving back and forth here. I'm going to go with the traditional beef Wellington because, in my opinion, and I can't prove it, this woman ain't going to come in there with damn pie. She wants to her freaking in-laws. She's serving them their last meal. She wants it to be traditional. These are older people. She sliced it off and added garnish. That's what she did. That's my opinion. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, Donna Donald. I do. I obviously. KJ's into this thing, make it easier on me in my life in terms of anything I do. But if I'm going to do something to prove a point about some damn woman out there in Australia who just so happened to make a meal that killed 3 people and one of them should have died, but it's just hanging on. And you got this Daily Mail Australia coming out with some really, really serious news about the woman's middle finger having cuts on it. Could she have gotten cuts from making a pie or the beef Wellington? Traditional. Make a signature dish, says Ramona Fisley. Eric Jasper says, yes, ma'am, them's good. So you never know, y'all. You never know what you're going to have to deal with. Let me finish this up because it ain't fair for me to just get halfway through it. So after, you let the Wellington with the cling wrap and the layers on it, you keep it in the refrigerator for about 15 minutes. Unwrap the Wellington from the fridge. It should be firm and easy to handle with being in the fridge, and place at the center of the dough. You'll be rolling the Wellington with the length of the dough. Using your fingers and water, pinch the dough together on the sides. Close as many gaps and holes as you can and use the water to help conjoin the dough. Preheat oven to 425. Place the Wellington on a pan or large casserole dish. Whisk egg yolk in a bowl and baste generously over the dough at all times. And y'all, I'm going to make a traditional beef Wellington, but I think I'm going to consider using Tina Reddington's idea of the croissant, laying that out instead of getting puff pastries or pie crust. That's what I'm going to do. I've made up my mind on that. So, cook time and meat temperatures is crucial. This is where you will want to use a meat thermometer, which I'm not, y'all, because I'm going to make the beef Wellington roll there. I'm going to make it where it's all even and good, just like Gordon Ramsay. It's going to be just like his almost. The last thing you want to be doing with a nice cut of meat like this is overcooking it. I will not overcook it, y'all. And with the meat already seared and the temperature at 425, it shouldn't take no more, y'all, than 25 minutes to get a 3-pound beef tenderloin, 2 medium rare. Gordon Ramsay put his at 35 minutes. So somewhere between the 25 and 35 minutes. That is why I highly recommend you use a meat thermometer, because the temperature on the meat is the most important to gauge. Once the internal temperature reaches 135 degrees, take out of the oven and allow to rest for 5 minutes before cutting and serving. Again, the end result picture don't do it justice because it was taken after several cocktails Christmas Day and I was just ready to eat. But I can promise you that it was delish. And this person who gave me a super easy beef Wellington recipe says nothing whatsoever. And this is the traditional of garnishment. Nothing. Doesn't say you add some extra little bits of rosemary and thyme, or you add some mushrooms or anything like that, y'all. That's another thing. I've got to really be thoughtful about this. Jill Schneider says it's better with puff pastries. Have you tried it with the croissant, rolling out the croissant thing, Jill? CSI Crowdsource Illumination says I've never been able to cook it right. It's either too red or too dry. Well, if I stick between that metric, y'all, even if I don't use a meat thermometer, I mean, I don't want to do it because I don't want to poke my pastry there, y'all. I want it to look professional. I want it to look like Gordon Ramsay's. I'm gonna definitely go between 25 and 35 minutes, and I'm gonna keep a quick eye on it. Maybe I'll split the difference. Elba Lopez says I can live without mushrooms. Well, Elba, those three people those in-laws of Aaron Patterson, they could have lived without the mushrooms. Ian Wilkinson, the pastor there, who's perhaps needing a liver transplant now, he could have lived a better quality of life without the mushrooms. But Aaron Patterson put the mushrooms on there. She says she ate them herself, but she got diarrhea or whatever, and they gave her a saline drip and some liver protecting whatever stuff, and that her children ate the same beef Wellington but scraped the mushrooms off. You cannot scrape mushrooms off of a pie if it's in the pie. Now, yes, if some of y'all want to say on the top, instead of whipped cream on a pie, you put the mushrooms. But if it was just, I don't know. I don't see any pictures of beef Wellington pie where they've got that on top of there. It's baked in the pie, just as it's baked in the beef Wellington traditional. So it couldn't have been a pie, y'all. Couldn't have been a pie unless she had some weird-ass recipe. Yes, N.H. Mary. She said the kids ate it. And they didn't have to have any saline drip or a liver protecting thing like she says she got when she went to the hospital the next evening because she had diarrhea and stomach pains. Of course she would have to go to the hospital and tell them hell, she probably got diarrhea from being, oh shit, they're finding out. She probably, this is so anxiety provoking for her, the police. That's why she didn't tell them about throwing out the food dehydrator. If it's so shocking, couldn't that cause her diarrhea? Because she didn't eat what her in-laws ate? Yes, Norma Guerrera. Good point. They're going to. Absolutely. They're going to interview those kids. Those kids are high school age kids. They ain't little kids. Are they willing to lie? I mean, for goodness sake, y'all. It's Chad Daybell's adult kids. Are they willing to lie? Separate case, but you know what I mean. Judy Burgess says, even if they scraped the mushrooms off, the poison juice from the mushrooms would have gotten into the pie. And it would have gotten into the meat or the Wellington, right? Or into the... I'm assuming that the beef inside that pastry, as it's baking, some of the juices of the beef there is going to kind of go into the pastry a little bit. Don't y'all agree? Gordon Ramsay in his beef Wellington video there says mushrooms have a lot of water in them and they have to be cooked out. He says nothing about a food dehydrator. He says nothing about using dehydrated mushrooms in that beef Wellington recipe. So yes, I'm sure there is a varied recipe out here for all kinds of beef Wellington pie. Well, Susan Honecker, you and I agree there. I mean, how did the kids not get sick? Could she have said the kids ate it just because she wanted everyone to think, well, she wouldn't give something poisonous to her kids? She wouldn't give something poisonous to herself because she says she ate it. CSI says dehydrated mushrooms in Wellington would be gross. So there you go. Some of y'all know what beef Wellington is, and you're sitting here saying that they don't really use them dehydrated. The fresh ones that you use in beef Wellington, you cook those out between, 6 and 7 minutes? You cook the water out of them? I don't see that Gordon Ramsay's going to absolutely give some off-the-wall recipe here. He's talking about a traditional Christmas beef Wellington, which the only thing that he adds in that different is the chestnuts, because it's Christmas. So she dehydrated something. And she dehydrated mushrooms. They couldn't have been the Asian mushrooms that she got 3 months ago, right? Because those were supposed to be already dried. They can't be the grocery store ones because there's no recalls out there, y'all. What she did, y'all, this is theory hypothesis. What she did was she was an expert forager. She picked those. She knew damn well that they were poisonous, or they looked so similar to the ones she was used to getting that she got a big mistake there. It was accidental. It's got to be one of those, y'all. Either one. And here you have the Daily Mail Australia letting us know that she has her middle finger with injuries on them, with us all knowing she was an expert forager. Even if she didn't pick them, whatever she purchased, she had to have looked at them. Tina Reddington says she picked them. Why don't she just confess that, Tina? She obviously had to confess about the food dehydrator with nothing wrong with it being put in the dump there, because she knew they were going over there to look. But then again, y'all, how did the police know to go over there to that dump? How did the police know to go over there and try to get CCTV footage of everyone coming in and out of that dumpster? She had to have told them. Or they got it from Simon, because Simon accused her of poisoning everyone and she was too afraid to tell the police. If she's too afraid to tell the police that, then she's too afraid to tell them, yes, I forged these. I was wrong. I didn't know. How are y'all going to get into my head and tell me that I meant to poison them? Yes, I'm coming clean now. I picked them myself. I really thought they were okay. How can they prove otherwise? She's an excellent forager. In all the years that she'd been foraging and making her recipes, no one ever got sick. Ann Gibson says she may have dried them out and didn't need a lot and sprinkled them like salt. They say that these death cap mushrooms are the deadliest in the world, y'all. We are absolutely going to find out all about it. And folks, OKJ is this weekend, y'all. I am going to the lake, but this weekend I'm shooting my cooking video of my beef Wellington, y'all. This is a big deal for me. This is a big deal. I've never made it. I get to say that before I leave this earth, whenever that may be, God willing, I'm going to make a beef Wellington. Never made it in my life. I'm going to try to kind of go along the lines with Gordon Ramsay, excuse me. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take a little here and there. I'm gonna take a little from the Rays. I'm going to put it together, and I'm going to focus in on the mushrooms. So, I hope everybody had a good Friday. Listening to KJ go on and on and on. You never know what you're going to get with Coffee with KJ. I do love you all. Hope you have a great weekend. Be looking for that cooking video. Be looking on the community wall, because I'm going to put Gordon Ramsay on there. I'll tell you what, he's an excellent chef. His version of it in the comments below that. Y'all be sure if you have any ideas of how I could tweak this recipe a little bit. Also, I'll post a picture of Erin Patterson with her middle finger with injuries on them. Okay? So I love you all. Have a great weekend. Talk to you real soon, y'all. Keep on looking.